Jen, are you ready to go? Okay. Oh, okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling this meeting of the Halton Police Board to order for Thursday, March 27th, 2025. Before we get into our meeting, I'd like to read our territorial acknowledgement in recognition of our Indigenous brothers and sisters and their part in our country. The Halton Police Board acknowledges the lands on which we gather for this meeting as the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and Anishinaabe. No matter our origins, our lives are intertwined through the shared earth beneath us, the water we consume, and the air that we breathe. All those responsible for the governance, as those responsible for the governance of the security of all who gather on this land we now call Halton. We are committed to the path of truth and reconciliation in our words and in our actions, and call on those watching for this meeting to do the same. Mr. Committee Secretary, are there any regrets today?
Yes, Ms. McKenna's regrets today, and also Mr. Allen.
Members of the board, are any disclosures of conflict of interest to declare today? Seeing any? And I would like to draw your attention to item 1.4. That's the minutes that were circulated for our last meeting on Thursday, the 27th of February. They have been circulated. Do you have any comments, questions, errors, or omissions to report? Second a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated, please. Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? Those are carried. We do not have any presentations this morning. There are 4 matters on our information report, namely 3.1, the CSWB dashboard report, 3.2, service vehicles, collisions, and damages, 3.3, purchase activity report, and 3.4, the new District 1 district facility quarterly project update. Board members, are there any separations of those items? I'm not seeing any, but I do think that the public would be interested in the update, so maybe we'll separate that just for a brief explanation of how things are going up north in North Halton. So with that, what I'm going to do is switch to 3.4 and ask, is that going to be you or somebody else?
Sure, I mean...
just an overview for the sake of anybody might be watching today.
I haven't been up in the last month or so, but things are progressing, as you can see from the photographs that are included in there. So some of the main floor is closed in. We did have a theft from the construction site of some materials and a generator, which not our building. I guess it was a theft from the region. It's not our building yet, but yeah. So we can be victims as well, and but it is progressing quite well. I think it's on budget and on time at this point. So. Hoping for the end of this year.
Terrific. Very exciting to see those pictures and see the progress of that new facility. I'm sure that our friends in North Halton are excited. Samira, you had a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to thank for this update. It's very exciting to see. Just a short while ago, we were there breaking ground, and now to see the structure coming up so nicely. It is sad that there was a theft at this location, which is also hilarious because it is a police station and there's a theft at it. So I don't know what the thieves will do. Where will they stop? I don't know. But having said that, the community is excited, Mr. Chair, to see this coming along really well, and we look forward to it being fully functional, and also look forward at the region to see what we will do with the Halton police station there. Thank you.
Thank you, Samira. The only other thing I'd like to do on the confidential matters is I just want to draw to the attention of, well, actually, I would like to thank our folks in the field for taking better care of our cars. The number of collisions has come down considerably from last year, 139 to 111 this year. So, Chief, did you have a comment on that? Or?
Yeah.
You took care of your car, right?
We wish it was 0. Mine has been good, and I think the deputies have been good too. So I see them checking every morning. But you know, 111 seems like a lot when you think about just the number, but it's within 8 million miles that the vehicles were driven. in 2024, which is roughly 1 incident per 100,000 or 105,000 kilometers. And those kilometers aren't normal kilometers. When I even first look at that report, you think, well, I drive 100,000 kilometers and don't have an accident. But I also don't have people ramming me when they're trying to get away in stolen cars or from a robbery, which happens increasingly more and more, and I've made a note of that in this report. And also, police cars are not normal cars, and they're not being operated in a normal citizen way when they are being driven. For example, when an officer's even responding to a theft in progress at a retail mall or a store, they have to be looking for things while they're driving to the scene. You or I probably would drive in and pay 98% attention to what we're doing and park safely in a spot. But that's not the way that our officers need to arrive at scenes quickly, very quickly, in some instances. So I'm very satisfied with the report. I don't have any concerns about the number of accidents. I do have a concern about the ones that are purposely caused by offenders, which is an ongoing issue for us. But overall, it's quite good.
Yeah, I think the board over the years that I've been here, we acknowledge the fact that it's impossible to drive. And for those of you who are following, for trivia's sakes, how many kilometers does the Halton Regional Police drive every year? Well, the answer is 7.955 million kilometers. That's a lot of kilometers. But recognizing that, the board's never, I think, had an issue with, accepting, not appreciating, but accepting the fact that there will be collisions. But what I really want to acknowledge the fact that they're down considerably this year or last year. So that's great. Whether that's by circumstance or maybe some corrective action, I'm not sure. But I think we're collectively pleased to see that that's the case. Not just from the safety of our vehicles, but from the safety of the individuals driving them as well. So thank you for that. There are 3 information reports. We've just talked about 2 of them. Is there a motion to accept the recommendations on those matters? Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? Then those are approved. That's the information reports 3.1 through 3.4. Moving on to recommendation reports. We have quite a few on the agenda today, 10 in fact, and we'll start out with the first one, which is the annual performance report for reporting period 2024. Is there any comments or questions on that, Samira?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out to the community that, home invasions have seen an increase in this annual report as it shows, and then that has subsequently brought down the clearance rate. And I see in the report it says, given that property crimes are solved at lower rates. This statement leads one to believe that this is a standard and that this is a reality or something that we have accepted. I just wanted to know from our chiefs here, what are we doing to fasten up the clearance rates for property crimes? Because they are violent and they leave a lasting impact on the families, and they make one feel in their own home unsafe.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. First of all, through the chair, the home invasions are violent crimes, and so the board will recall from several reports or correspondence that I have sent out to board members about arrests that have been made in relation to home invasions. They would fall into the violent category. And the main reason there's a big difference between clearance rates of violent crime and property crime, if you think about it, is in every violent crime there's a victim. So when there's a victim who sees something, so there's a witness. We often don't have witnesses to property crimes. We don't have the same evidence for property crimes. So if someone steals a car in the middle of the night from a driveway and nobody sees them, it's different than if they've gone into a jewelry store to do a robbery and their image is captured on video. We do, I think, rightfully spend fortunately more time on the more serious violent crimes. So on the positive side, it's great to see that violent crime has decreased in 2024 compared to 2023. It actually hurts our clearance rate because if there had been more violent crimes, we would solve about 80% of those, and it would increase the clearance rate. Typically, and I would say this going back to the 1980s or 1987 and 1988 when I was in the detective office, we'd clear property crime around 35%. We're still around 30%-ish on property crimes, depending on the type of property crime. But as you see the large increases in property crime, auto theft just being one of those, take away the home invasion, violent or carjacking part of that, we always see that lower trend in clearance rates for property crime. So a theft out of a garage in the middle of the night, whatever it may be. I suppose the justice system looks at those crimes much less seriously too, but the fact is there often is no witnesses and no evidence to go about solving those crimes. That is not just a Halton thing, that's across Canada. Property crime clearance rates are far lower. I was reviewing this just in the last couple of days, and I remember looking at Sudbury, I think last year, and Sudbury having a very high clearance rate, and I thought, how did that happen? In hindsight, it happened because their violent crime rate is higher. I don't want a higher violent crime rate so that we can have a higher clearance rate, but that is actually the dynamics of what happens behind the scenes. So if you have 10 times as many property crimes as violent crimes, your clearance rate is going to decrease. And that's why we asked our analysts to have a closer look at that again this year. The board may recall last year we looked at specifically the impact, or the last 2 years specifically the impact of auto theft. Because all of a sudden we had 1,500 cars stolen in 2023, I think 1,200 last year, which is still way up from the years before. And although we get about 60% of the vehicles back, we don't solve 60%, which mean we would have to charge or arrest somebody. So it is a trend that is happening across, not just Halton, but across Ontario and beyond that.
If I can just top up in terms of your question is what are we doing about some of the process pieces? Last year we sparked up quite a robust collaborative effort with investigators, police analytics, records management. And when you bring those bodies together, you start to create systems of analysis and review and responsibility. So you'll see in the districts and even within RIS portfolios that we are focusing on certain people and members that have to look at certain types of crimes. When you overlay that with the great value that our crime analysts bring and then our data analytics, we actually are focused in on finding and connecting dots so that we can enhance and increase those clearances for property crime. So there is a system in place. I don't think we can do much more in that regard, but measuring what we're doing and putting those resources to it should give the board confidence in the fact that we are leveraging all the resources throughout the organization to focus in on that priority for the board.
Phil wants to
give specific examples for awareness, like when you look at the prevalence of what some of the crimes that are affecting us, you look at how fraud, the numbers skyrocketing, right? And that's got a lot to do with technology in some ways, Kijiji, like for example, specific examples, people not getting what they thought they were going to get at Kijiji could potentially count as a fraud, it is that. So specific to our fraud team, we are looking at new ways of intaking crime, new intaking reports, how we resource our fraud team to deal with specifically this. If you look at things that you hear in the news, like how the LCBO is having thefts that are just going through the roof. This is something that the chief and I just recently addressed with our Crown, because some of the challenges that we're having with the idea or the concept of theft, very much to your point of, yes, violent crime is one part, but we still have to deal with property crime. What you're seeing in the LCBO thefts is you're seeing traveling groups moving around to all the different LCBOs. And they're committing thefts, and the employees rightfully, in my mind, are not intervening, obviously. And you've got people just coming in and hitting them, and then they're hitting 5 other small towns. So what's happening is our service is very, very good at addressing that. And we have had a lot of success in hitting criminal rings for theft. But it's not the way that all the other services are dealing with it. And then when you look at the courts see theft. We see organized crime, right. They see theft. And where does that fall, right? And it's getting the penalties and getting the support behind doing that. It's, I personally met with the director of security for the LCBO to speak very much about this very specific idea of how, as a collaboration, can we do something about this and work together to address these crimes. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and I guess my point is it takes a lot of partnerships to make this happen. The courts, the private entities. So there is a lot of conversations and a lot of work going on specific to this.
Well, thank you so much to all of you for that robust response. The community should understand what goes on behind the scenes. You just see numbers on a document and then you have questions. It's good that we have that clarity now. And I'm sure a lot of these offenders are also repeat offenders, which takes us back to the jail reform advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, that perfectly lines up with the query I wanted to give you an opportunity to expand on a little bit more, and it's on page 43. It's the Halton breach of bail section. And the numbers there are trending with some stability with a percentage of HRPS breach arrests by year, 2015 to 2024. While they look somewhat stable, hovering between 10 and 12%. When you go over to the top 10 arrests, we're seeing a 30% almost on break and enters and other criminal codes related to that. So I think that we have a perception out there that there's a lot of that catch and release that's causing some challenges related to workplace wellness, which is also touched on in this report. I'm just wondering if you wanted an opportunity to expand on that and also recognize that we now have a Ministry of Auto Theft and Bail Reform at the provincial level.
Yeah, no, thank you. And through the chair, we specifically asked for this to be included this year to highlight where some of those things were coming from. That was a question from some board members before and some citizens when we've been at different public forums. And certainly politically when we're dealing with some of our political partners at the provincial level or federal level, sometimes different discussions. But they are, I'd say they're alarmingly high, not surprising. It's always been the case if someone is known for doing break-and-enters, they are probably going to do more break-and-enters. And they don't get caught for their first break-and-enter. That's probably their 8th or 10th, unless they're really bad or really unlucky. They've victimized a number of people before they're caught for a house break-in or a stolen auto. So these numbers are sort of coincide perfectly, I think, with what all of us would envision as the recidivism type of rate. If more arrests were made in some of those things like auto theft, I think that number would be higher, because some of these people who were in breach of some condition and then arrested in a stolen car were in other stolen cars too, and they will probably be in another one, because the penalty isn't that great and the profit margin is there. And it is profitability and economics that drive major crime, coupled with a fairly lenient justice system, which we've had forever, really, in Canada. We all hope that some of that will change. I think it will require some further investment. I mean, the province invests in policing in Ontario. The federal government has tried to do some things. Our correctional facilities are overfilled. There's either going to have to be more correctional facilities or a different way of looking at which repeat offenders are held in custody, because they are more likely to repeat those same offenses. There may be some people in custody that the community would be safer or reasonably safe if they weren't, but it's going to have to prioritize somehow, because I think Maplehurst is at about 140%. I don't feel particularly sorry for people that are in custody for really serious offenses, but there's going to have to be an investment on the correctional side as well, and on the justice side, because if we don't also invest in more judges and court facilities and crown attorneys, we're not going to get the cases to court in time, and judges are going to throw cases out if they go past 12 or 18 months in the more serious cases. So certainly that's a lot of work that the OECT and the CACP do as well. And there's a lot of changes that have to come sort of together to make it better.
Thank you for that insight. I feel we're all working in the same direction on this, and I'll just underscore, I think the most alarming one here is intimate partner violence, because we know, number one, how difficult it is to actually secure a proper arrest. Extremely difficult. And then to see that 21% of those arrests are by repeat offenders is a very alarming number. I wanted to underscore that one.
Well, I would say even a much higher number would be repeat offenders. That's just the number that's actually been charged and on some sort of a condition.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you brought that up, just because, again, to thank you for the investment you've made that we have now just stood up, or we're going to be standing up shortly, and we're going to do a bit of a media release on it at a later time, an offender management team specific to IPV. I believe we're the only people in the country that promise that will have this. But I think that, to your point, and the stats show just how necessary that is to prevent further crime and how prevalent repeat offenders are. So again, thank you for that investment in the last budget process.
Are you, Lisa? Next up is Ingrid.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I so appreciate this overview, especially looking at these 5-year comparisons. And we know that with the population increasing, crime is certainly on the rise as well. The question that I have, there was a time where we would see statistics about distracted drivers. Do we still track that?
We do, yes.
And where would that be? Is that
Sometimes
just
during campaigns, it can be embedded into our annual report as traffic and road safety is a priority for the organization and community. So we will often report on the breakdown of the types of offenses that.
But it's not in here.
No, I don't.
But is it still a problem that we face?
Yes. Yeah. I only drive 6 kilometers home every day, and I could see 2 or 3 people.
We're on the
absolutely rampant in Toronto, in Oakville, and all of our communities. And if some of you have larger vehicles where you're a little bit more elevated than people beside you, you will see it every day.
Every day.
Thank you. Further comments or questions?
There's a technological answer to that nobody wants, which is cell phones not working in certain parts of vehicles, but nobody wants that inconvenience, right?
But it's not just cell phones. There's other distractions as well.
Y'all are shaving. I saw somebody shaving the other day in their car.
Bowl of cereal.
Here, doing this. It's like, how are you paying attention to anything you're doing?
That would not be the same definition of distracted driving as using an electronic device. Right?
No, holding an electric shaver in your hand?
Yeah.
That would be,
Or
that's what it was. They weren't using shaving cream and hot water.
And a blade.
Cereal.
Mr. Bean, did you see Mr. Bean?
Oh, folks, see, that's the always exception to the rule. That's the Mr. Bean rule. Okay, thank you. I do want to point out and thank the author of this report and the service for actually tying, well, first of all, for the report. It's an excellent report and really one of the most important reports we get every year as a report card on the status of crime in our community. But I do want to thank the team. I want to thank the authors of this report for actually tying this all back to our strategic plan. So there's a very clear correlation between these statistics and our strategic plan. It's highly documented, and that really is respectful of the work that we've all collectively done to create that strategic plan and to report back on it. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that.
I should just note, it is a combination of Kyle Fitzpatrick and the analytical team and Keith Moore in the planning section, and now Inspector Paul Foley that's in executive services, overseeing corporate communications and some different things that will have a hand in this moving forward as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's too often that organizations, they create strategic plans and they're all excited about them for the first of the while and then they forget them later on. But clearly the service has embraced our strategic plan as a working document, and we really appreciate that. Fred, you have a comment?
I've just asked Jessica to create a folder for these reports on the board's website, so just so you know, it is obviously publicly accessible now, but we're gonna
What was it called?
memorialize them on the website, so that the public is more aware of your efforts and performance.
That's a wonderful idea. As a way to call out some of these really important, super important reports.
Actually came up with the idea because there's a report coming up that now has to be posted on the website, and I thought we should balance the two.
I like that. Okay. 4.1, can I get a motion to approve this report, please? Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on to 4.2, that is our 2024 Occupational Health and Safety Report and 2025 Health and Safety Policy Statement. Comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question regarding the Human Resources Abilities Management Team and the Organizational Wellness Unit. Is the HR Abilities Management Team new? Or have we had that function before?
Through the chair, we have had that unit before. It's a team within our HR unit. Abilities management is sort of a rebranding of what would have once been called disabilities management, and we've renamed it. It's a small team of 3 members, led by a manager whose function is to focus on managing files of employees for a variety of reasons that are suffering some sort of need for modification. It could be a short-term illness, long-term illness, and everything in between.
And how does that team work with, in your final paragraph on page 46, where you talk about the services, health and safety initiatives continue to be recognized by other police agencies throughout the province? And you mentioned the OPHSA and you mentioned the OHMRA and the PSHSA. Does the abilities team work together with these entities? Or is there a correlation between what the HR team does and these other agencies?
Through the chair, yes. We definitely partner with other police agencies for best practice. So there are some provincial committees that some of our members of our team sit on at a provincial level to bring back those best practices to our organization.
And it says that we're highly recognized for our initiatives. So are we doing something better or something greater than some of the other services?
I think from a wellness and a reintegration standpoint, we are definitely setting a gold star out there in the province. We've been working very closely with our partners and integrating it with our human resource services for abilities management to ensure that we're working together collaboratively as a team. And that's something we have heard from our partners is not always the case, that HR and the reintegration teams are working so closely together.
It's probably contributed to our recognition as being an employer of choice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Anecdotally, it's interesting. Of course, I'm involved now at the national level with the CAPG and talk to a lot of my peers, and
yes.
We're constantly being recognized by others for our wellness activities, and that distinction of the top employer status really resonated across the policing sector. And I certainly heard from it from my colleague, police governance colleagues.
And at our last board meeting, we did talk about the impact we have on the reintegration process, which seems to be highly, highly recognized. Yeah. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Further comments or questions? Ingrid, could you move that for me, please?
Yes.
It's been moved, seconded by Samira. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. 4.3 is the annual report on urgent demands for information related to missing persons. Comments or questions? Any additional comments from the command team? No? Okay.
This is a new CSP requirement.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation, please? Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, 4.4 is Chief Administrative Investigation into SIU matter. Chief, do you have any Overarching comments?
No, I think it's almost as straightforward as one could be. So it's, SIU certainly very quickly did the officer of any wrongdoing on their side of things, and we echo that from an internal policy review perspective. So Crystal, Inspector Dodds is here today, but I don't think in relation to this one there would be many questions, so thank you.
Members of the board, comments, questions? Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? No more hurry. Oh, there we go. Lisa and Ingrid, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 4.5 is Next Generation 9/11 Agreements, Region of Halton and Bell, Canada. Any feedback from command team on this?
Other than it's an administrative process of shaking hands with some key stakeholders to advance the work, and we don't have any other alternatives, but it's the function of the chair of the board to sign off.
Great, thank you. Any comments, questions from the board? Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation? Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? That's carried. 4.6 is online police auctions, Auction Win Incorporated. So this is for authorization for the chair to sign an agreement with Auction Win for the provision of online auction services. Any comments or questions? Going once, going twice? Sold. No, Mira, you admitting?
Yes.
Careful, don't put your hand up unless you got cash in your pocket. Mira is moving it. Is there a seconder? Ingrid, all in favor? Sold. There we go.
Need your gavel.
I need my where's my gavel? 4.7. 4.7 is capital projects program status revised. So, comments, questions? Any feedback from the command team?
Well, we have a number of capital projects that we're sort of in the normal sequence of things able to close, others that we were able to have a look at and reprioritize, and that helps to absorb to help offset any costs at the end of 2024 that we realized in the operating budget, largely through JEPI process and different things that we had to deal with last year. So I think the report is detailed enough and self-explanatory that way.
I believe it is. Members of the board, do you feel the same way? Is there a motion to approve it then? Thank you, Nav. Thank you, somebody. Thank you, Ingrid. All in favor? That's carried. I usually have competition for who's going to move in second. 4.8 is the Halton Police Foundation policy. Fred, do you have any, this has been worked on for a while now. Do you have any feedback or any opening comments on this? Or any comments at all?
I think it's self-explanatory.
It is pretty self-explanatory, and we appreciate the cooperation of the chief and the foundation in getting to this policy. That's good work. Good bit of work. Members of the board, any questions? Take a motion to approve the policy, please. Thank you, Lisa.
I think this is something maybe we could have a small dialogue on for anyone to the benefit of watching. And I think the big question is, why should these two entities be held separately? And I think that we should verbalize that for the benefit of anyone watching.
Sure. Okay, well, just for that explanation, the Halton Police Foundation is a separate arm's-length organization that was incorporated as a charitable foundation to raise money to predominantly youth activities, but to provide funding for youth activities and such in the community in favor of reducing risk and crime amongst those communities. So they held their first major event last year, which was a wonderful gala, and raised a considerable amount of money with the support of some wonderful community benefactors, and they've got a nice little nest egg that they can now use to advance community safety, and this policy is strictly to ensure that for purposes not only of accountability, but also for legal purposes, to make sure that there's a clear distinction between the board and the foundation, and to create some metrics and some rules around who shall do what. So this is what this is all about. Predominantly to ensure that there is a separation of, overuse of another statement, church and state here. And so that's why this policy has been developed, and we think it's going to serve both organizations very well going forward.
Thank you. I knew the answer. so you know, but I think it's really important in our efforts around transparency and accountability for anyone watching that they hear how important this work is, and it really is groundbreaking, I think is the word used in the report.
You're so right.
Thank
you for drawing that out. It is important that we do pause once in a while, recognizing the fact that we are encouraging members of the public to participate in our meetings online, and it would be quite a blur simply go through an entire agenda without maybe pausing at some of these really reports like the 4.1 and also this one. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, can I get a motion to approve this policy, or did I already do that? I think you did already. I think I did this, yes, thank you. But so far we could vote twice. I'm just kidding. 4.10, that's the size of the Halton Regional Police Board. Now, let me frame, do you want to frame this? Or do you want me to?
4.9?
Yeah.
4.9.
Did I say 10? I apologize.
No, you can, and I believe Graham's worked on the CD as well.
Okay. Well, I'll start then. Basically, I'll go to Graham. So, under the Community Safety and Policing Act, municipalities who are ultimately are creators have the right to establish the size of a board that best meets the needs of their local municipalities. Our board is 7 members, as all boards in Ontario have been. The CSPA, which was enacted on April 1st, 2024, now gives municipalities the responsibility to establish the appropriate size board. This report is on our agenda today not because it's our decision, but because I felt it important that we provide feedback to the municipality as to what our thoughts are on this, on a non-binding, without prejudice basis, so that they can understand our perspective on this. Graham, do you have anything else to add to that, since you serve in both capacities here?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think you framed it very well. The only item I have to add is just since the presentation of this report, Toronto City Council is taking a resolution today to confirm their board at 7 members. As it says in the report, 5 of the Big 12 have already confirmed as 7 members, and the others are pending.
And are you aware of any that are looking at increasing their boards?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Samira, you have a comment?
Only that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to go with option 2, and I'd like to propose that we keep the status quo and the size at 7 members.
Okay. So you're moving that motion?
Yes.
Is there a second, just so we can get it on the floor? No, thank you. Discussion? Any thoughts on that? My colleague councillor, what do you think about that motion?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. There's the quote of the day. Message of the day.
7 is my lucky number.
7 is your lucky number, okay.
Yeah, I will underscore though the fact that we are limited in terms of doing our skills assessments and matrix based on the way that the configuration is for types of boards like this. That can sometimes cause us to have to look for outside and third-party help, whether it be legal, financial, or consultative otherwise. But I think that this board has done an incredible amount of work to be a solidified board with dissenting opinions, to have healthy dialogue that you don't see happen here, but we do try to tease out the issues so that we can listen to each other from a purpose of understanding and fact gathering, so that we can come to meetings like this and have rich dialogue to deliver the best governance work that we possibly can. So that does happen, and it's not necessarily something that would be enhanced to any magnitude with just the addition of new individuals for purposes of a position only. So again, if it ain't broke, fix it. But we would certainly love to have more control over our bench strength and our skills matrix, which is something that we can't necessarily do, but is a good, strong indicator of good governance. But we have some really incredible actions on the board right now as is, and we're doing a really fantastic job.
Yeah, I think thank you, Lisa, for those comments. Those are excellent comments. I think the one thing I really want to just put an extra exclamation mark behind is that we have no control as a board over the composition of the board. So it's impossible, other than our citizen appointee, who is Ingrid, to actually go out and search for certain skill sets in order to make up the board. I mean, the best practice in the board governance world is to have a skills matrix and have people that have complementary skill sets to offer to board assemblies, but we don't have that ability because of the nature of appointments. And for those who are maybe watching and don't understand that, are appointed by a combination of the province and municipal council. The province appoints 3 persons, and the council appoints 3 councillors and 1 citizen. So it becomes, other than the citizen appointee, where the decision is largely made about the appointment based on skill sets, the other appointments are often not necessarily adjudicated on that, and that's a shortcoming of the process. However, having said that, I dare say we have a really exceptionally active, engaged, and qualified board to govern this organization. I go further to say that's probably one of the better ones we've had. I personally feel, speaking to the motion now, I personally feel that 7 is a great number. Not that it's my lucky number or anything, but I think that it's a large enough board so that you have a diversity of opinion, but it's a small enough board so that everybody has an opportunity to get their 2 cents in and to have an actual impact on the ultimate decisions being made. Too large a board, it becomes unwieldy. Too small a board, it becomes too prescribed. And so I think 7 has worked very well. And to quote the sage advice of Councillor Kearns, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And just to add on to your wonderful comments about, a good collection of diversity of opinion, that is so important and critical to any governing board being able to be productive. And I see that on this board, and I was just trying to add some levity by saying 7 is my lucky number, but wanted to just say that this board works really well, and we are actually a model for many other boards who are trying to do some change management. So with that regard, I think 7 is what we have and what we should continue with. And I know my colleague Nav had a comment here, so I'm going to give the floor to him.
I just wanted to comment that I wasn't necessarily poking you about the lucky number. I was just enjoying the frivolity in that comment. Nav.
Yes, I just want to echo, 7's not a smaller group. It's a decent size where we could all have different skill sets. But I just wanted to mention, how we said we don't have control of the board on who's appointed. The citizens have control because they're electing the council members. Yes. So you guys, the region has spoken to who they've elected, and from that is how the board is formed. And then the citizens have also elected the provincial government and put their trust in the provincial government to then who have appointed the provincial. So I don't want to discount the fact that we don't have control of the board. The people who pay the tax dollars, the citizens of the region, have then elected people to make the decisions on their behalf. So I just want to point out that, the people at the end are the ones that are selecting the people to represent.
Agreed. I guess my point was, though, that it makes it very difficult, though, to create a skills-based matrix and recruiting strategy around those boards, because you're limited to those pools when you get in that situation, whereas a lot of boards will actually advertise and headhunt for people with specific goals to apply for election of the board. So I recognize what you said as a person that has been part of that democratic process several times over the last 24 years. I appreciate that comment very much, but it would be great if there was some additional flexibility, maybe some guidelines as to how we achieve that in the future. But that's a discussion for a different time. I'm very happy with 7, so let's move on. Lisa, you had further feedback?
Just one gentle point. So oftentimes a remedy for inability to achieve quorum is an increase in board members.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make note that we do not have a quorum issue. In fact, in any memory, I don't recall us ever not being able to convene on schedule due to board member quorum issues. So that's another thing I just wanted to include on, supporting the number as is currently. Yeah,
usually when we convene late, it's because the chair's been gabbing with the command team before the meeting started. So I will take that hit for today. Okay, so enough self-congratulations. I think think that we have established a motion here that we can send off to our regional friends and have them make the ultimate decision. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call one last time for comments. Just to come back to Graham for 1 second, is there anything else we need in this motion, or is that sufficient?
No, and just with follow-up, I get to write a letter to myself, so.
Give Graham, love Graham.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
You're the best. You're the best. The motion is, can you just read the motion itself?
Sure. It's that the Halton Police Board recommend that Halton Regional Council adopt a resolution confirming the size of the board at 7 members.
I just want to make sure that that word recommend was in there, so we don't, we're the decision authority here. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Now my computer went to sleep. So 410, which is the
Ongoing community fund.
thank you. Review of ongoing community fund commitments, and that is a report authored by Jessica Warren. Jessica, did you have any feedback to provide?
No, just that in the overall review of the community fund and the commitments, I think it's important that having things rolling over year after year after year, that they actually be reviewed yearly and in consultation with service staff. The recommendation is in there.
And this is all part of our overall goal to reform, maybe that's not the right word, but reorganize the way the community fund is managed and administered.
Correct.
Yes. So it's one step in that campaign.
One step in the direction to revamp the community fund process.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jessica, for your work on this. Members of the board, any comments or questions? Any concerns from the command team, since a lot of these relate to things that initiatives you folks are working on? Nothing? Okay. Motion to approve the recommendation, please. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Ingrid. All in favor? That's carried. Operational verbal updates.
Good morning, through the chair. A couple of updates. On March 18th, our People, Culture, and Wellness Unit organized a hate crime awareness symposium that was attended by over 100 members of the service. It was the keynote speaker was Lieutenant Brian Murphy from Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Lieutenant Murphy, in 2012, was the first officer on scene at a hate-motivated attack on a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and he was shot 15 times by the lone male assassin in the temple, who was a white supremacist. And he survived the attack, and his courage on that day prevented the tragedy from becoming a lot worse. 7 people tragically were killed in this temple before Lieutenant Murphy was the first officer on scene, but his arrival and engagement with the lone attacker prevented additional deaths. So needless to say, he was a powerful speaker. The room was silent. It was a 3-hour presentation. I attended, as well as a number of other senior members of the service. Very powerful presentation, and what's worth noting was there's 3 main points of his presentation and why we brought him from Wisconsin for the day. The first was that obviously hate crime can never be tolerated. He emphasized that there was a lot of patrol officers in the symposium, frontline officers, and he emphasized that every single complaint of hate needed to be vigilantly investigated to ensure that something like this never happens, and he stressed that to the officers. The second key message from his presentation was the courage and resiliency that he had to demonstrate to survive his wounds and his recovery, and that obviously, for the sworn members in the audience, it's very powerful to hear his story. There was actually video footage of him being rescued by his peers, being brought to first aid. It was a very powerful moment when he spoke about his injuries. And then the last part of his message was the strength of community. He put a lot of emphasis on the fact that when he was during his recovery, the Sikh community rallied around him, essentially adopted him as part of their temple, and he's kept in touch with a number of the members of that community, now retired, as well as the greater Oak Creek, Wisconsin community rallied around the Sikh community as well to help them get through this tragic event. So it was a very powerful presentation, a lot of key messages. It was definitely something that was worth the investment of everyone's time. And the other verbal update on this week on Tuesday, we had 6 officers depart for the NAPS Police Service in Northern Ontario for their Northern Exposure Secondment. They will be returning back on April 7th, and I'm sure there's a lot of great insight site that they'll share with their peers. We've got a number of different ways that we're going to get them to share their information with the rest of the organization to help us increase our overall cultural competence in this particular area of Indigenous neighbors to the north. So great experience for them, and we're looking forward to them coming back. I met with them before they left. Very eager, very excited, a little bit nervous, but all that rolled into one, so I can't wait to hear about them.
Well, we hope that they will come to the board to talk a little bit about their experience as well. We've enjoyed and learned a lot from previous participants in that program, and I'm sure that my colleagues would agree that it's a very worthwhile program, and we would certainly appreciate the update as well. Sure. So we can benefit from their experience. Ingrid, you have a comment?
Yeah, we certainly look forward to the presentation, and we enjoyed the previous ones. The question I have is, how do you select the officers who go up there?
So it's voluntary. There's a call out to anybody who's interested, but then there is a screening process. So there's a set criteria that has to be met to ensure that they're well suited for this particular assignment. An interview process essentially. And I should add that we have connected them, each of them, with a member of our wellness team, personal connection. So they'll have a daily check-in for the time that they're up there, just to make sure that they don't feel that sense of isolation. And our wellness team will also support their families as well while they're gone. If anything comes up that the family's concerned about, they also have the wellness members number as well, just to bridge that gap so they feel fully supported in their absence. And if there's any issues, we can help them.
Housing up there is always a challenge, so where would they be accommodated?
They generally stay with police members from the community up there. They're essentially billeted in some cases with a member of that service up there. And there's other accommodations that are made.
Great. Well, we look forward to their presentation and their experience.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Okay. Anything else on verbal updates?
So as we all know, technology has a massive impact on public safety in our sector. For a couple of years, we have been looking to understand how technology and information technology department embraces risk and opportunity. And through the budget process, you'll know that we have requested to expand not only the members that do some of the IT-related work, but also the leadership. So we have recently posted a process to enhance our management team. Adam Woods, who formerly was our IT operations and actually our one manager, has now evolved into an innovation and transformation team lead as a manager, and that has vacated the operations side. So I just want to congratulate Adam for that. He brings great skill set, obviously, and an appetite for progressive mindset for how technology serves us and you as a board. And with that opening, we also posted for the operations side, and so I'm happy to introduce our new IT manager of operations, Mansour Khan, is with us. So under the leadership of obviously Bill Payne, now with Adam and Mansour, we feel very confident that we have enough attention on the right things when it comes to kind of dividing the operational side and then the modernization innovation piece that you expect of us in our communities too. So very happy to work alongside these fine gentlemen, and we look forward to providing updates in those spaces as we advance the work. I do have another an operational update as well.
Before you go there, just congratulations, Adam. Well deserved, and we look forward to some great new work from you. And welcome, Mansour. And we apologize in advance for the board members who are going to try to pretend they know what they're talking about tonight. Really selling questions as the time goes on. But we do appreciate the effort that's always made and to keep us up to date. And welcome to the team. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
It wasn't in the job posting, but Mansour doesn't understand that he's now on speed dial from board members when your iPad doesn't work. And
that's why I apologize.
Sorry about that.
He's going to come back and say, what the heck was he talking about? Well, now you know.
There's probably an opportunity too in future board meetings to provide an overview of the actual IT infrastructure on how we've kind of broken up the work and the things that we're working on just for line of sight, especially as it relates to the capital projects and budgeting. And I know we want to start that process earlier this year, so we'll do that. When it comes to operational updates, I always like to highlight some of the great work that's happening in the district. Our Burlington street crime, actually under the leadership of Staff Sergeant Kelly Bloor, 4 months ago, she's obviously been promoted and now working in our space, but she was the supervisor of the Burlington street crime unit when it began to work on I'd say a lower level type of like local drug file. Well, that evolved and scaled quite quickly, and they eventually jumped into what's called Project Cortex, and you may have seen recently in some media releases the outcome of that investigation. And sometimes when you think it's localized, things can scale quickly. They were able to, for a 4-month period, follow around some local targets that can scale. And in February and March, they executed 4 warrants in Burlington, Oakville, and Grimsby. Now, what's amazing about this is you never know what you're going to get when you kick the door. They were able to get a number of firearms, 19.5 kilograms of cocaine, a kilogram of fentanyl, and then a whole series of other types of drugs. And a great haul by that crew, great commitment to the investigation, and a tremendous outcome that has a significant impact on the drug trafficking culture in that area. So just want to give a shout out to that team. It was very committed and likely a bit of a lifeline to our regional investigative units down the road in major drug intersections. But I just want to thank them for their efforts and this very successful investigation. That was obviously supported by a number of other areas as it concluded, but it started with that small team in Burlington.
Cool. Thank you. Probably saved a lot of lives in that investigation.
No, it's been, I think it's been a great month for arrests, not only major drug seizures, but also on some of the more violent and the auto theft side of things. So we try to push some of those, not all of them, but some of them to you as information in email. So certainly appreciative of all that work that's going on. There's something else going on south of the border, apparently, in recent months. So we are also trying to purchase and have as many purchase orders in place already for vehicles, just in consideration of what's probably going to happen. So we're trying to be as proactive and ahead of time as we can on that. So just for the board's information, that's all for public.
It's a good point to raise. I'm wondering, have we done any sort of risk analysis as it pertains to you already presupposed as it pertains to tariffs and how they're going to impact us going forward?
Well, vehicles is the obvious one, notwithstanding yesterday, of course, but however, measure what percentage of a vehicle is going back and forth across the border. It's ridiculous. We're also looking at other things like such as ammunition, because I believe most of the major ammunition providers are American-based, whether it's Winchester or different manufacturers, so that could have an impact on us as well. We're Kevin through his team and training are looking at different options there. But a lot of our uniform supply equipment, even if it comes through Canadian distributors, is probably U.S.-based, so there may be additional impacts from that show up in the 2026 budget or in our bottom line for 2025.
Chief Hill, or Deputy Hill, sorry. I'll talk to you later.
I thought that part was board only.
So did I.
Paul had already looked at this, and we looked at 2024. There probably would have been about $1.7 million worth of purchase acquisitions that would have been affected by these tariffs, and we would have looked at about a $400,000 price increase if we were to apply the tariffs. So it's something that we're definitely looking at, where we're sourcing, because for sure it's going to have an effect on us. We do, obviously, $1.7 million worth of stuff from the States that the tariffs would apply to. It's obviously going to have an effect on us. So we're on top, we're looking at it. We're aware of it.
Fortunately, our new helicopters are coming from Europe, right?
Good question.
Yeah, because
where they're flying from and where they're technically from.
That would be a very expensive.
That would be very expensive for the province.
I was going to say the province is paying the bill, but that's a big check to write.
Yeah.
Paul, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to clarify,
that the $1.7 million excludes all costs for vehicles. We just found out yesterday that the tariffs are being introduced, so.
So it's
we haven't
1.7.
quantified that yet.
1.7 plus.
400.
Yes. We spend approximately $4 million in this year's budget for vehicles, sourced either through Ford, GM, whatever we call Chrysler now, and then some other local dealerships for other vehicles that are smaller volume. So we're not sure what the impact will be on that.
Specific to the vehicles, what has already started to happen is we're going to hang on to cars longer.
Yeah.
Instead of doing what we used to do, where we're going to turn over cars and hand them back and try and see what we get at auction, the team has already started to repurpose them, hang on to them, reuse them, so that we're not in that. And they were already ahead of trying to get ahead of this cycle. So we've already authorized a whole bunch of vehicles to be purchased, even tires as of today, to try and get ahead of this.
When I was, just further to that, I was speaking with a contact of mine that's been in the automotive industry for many years across Canada, and the advice was to hold on to used vehicles because the value of them is also going to go up. So if new vehicle goes up by 10, 15, or 25%, it's going to drive the demand and the cost of good used vehicles going back into the market. So there may be a cost benefit to that, but we're not going to get rid of vehicles sooner, that's for sure.
Help defray some of those extra costs. And we just approved that auction, so they're going to be lonely.
They won't be going there yet.
No, yeah. Okay, anything further, or is that it for public verbal updates? Okay. Mr. CGO, our action registry.
There's 5 items, Mr. Chair. The first item is regarding agreements for assistance with the provision of policing. And we are awaiting the provincial template being done by the OPP, right? And there's nothing new on that yet, or do you have an update, Ken?
Good to hear, Mr. Chair. The agreement, as I understand, is getting through the final vetting stage through the ministry and the OPP. That's really where the holdup is. However, in confidential session, I can give you a further update.
Probably mid-2027.
The second item regards basically tying the annual service performance report to the strategic plan. That's now been done, and the board received that earlier, so we'll take that off the list. As a go forward item. Next month, we have Crime Stoppers, right, Jess? And community fund policy about the community fund items still under.
We need to get board feedback today to bring up public item next month with final recommendations.
So we're aiming to finish that next month.
That'd be great.
Those last 2.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about the action registry? Seeing none, I'll get a motion to receive, please. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Samira. All in favor? That's carried. You've been made aware of the public correspondence that's been circulated, and there's a report here on 2 items. Anybody have any comments or questions on those? Seeing none, can I get a motion to receive the public correspondence, please? Ingrid and now, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Is there other new business to come before the board in public session today? I'm not seeing any, so I'll look for a motion to move into a session close to the public. And for the sake of those watching and to set the record straight, the motion would be that the Halton Police Board do now convene into a closed session as the subject matters to be discussed concern personal matters about identifiable individuals, including members of the police service or any employees of the board, and financial information supplied in confidence to the board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. I require that motion. Can somebody give that? Thank you, Nev. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? That's carried. Before we do that, I would like to just thank members of the public who might be watching us today on YouTube. We do appreciate your interest in the business of your Halton Police Service and its board. If you have any comments or questions, never hesitate to reach out to us. You can always read more about the board's activities as well as our agendas and links to past meetings at haltonpoliceboard.ca. And of course, if you have any questions, never hesitate to contact our office, and you can always send me an email at chair@haltonpoliceboard.ca. So thank you for that. We are moving into a closed session, so this ends our live broadcast of today's board meeting, and we'll see you again in April. Members of the board, this meeting is recessed until 10:35 for a break, and then we're going to reconvene in closed session.